Hello there. I'm so excited to come back to you here with another juicy interview with my client, Sandra, who went from attracting non-committal men, second guessing herself, questioning what should I express, what I should not express, to actually attracting an incredible man into her life who sends her gorgeous flowers, celebrates her, right? And her, as a consequence of that, feeling confident, feeling secure, right? That she's being celebrated for all of who she is. So excited, Sandra, for you to be here today. Hello.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here, to be on this side now.
What do you say, Sandra?
To be on this side of finding what I've been looking for.
And what did I tell you in the beginning of the program, right? You're going to be the next. I can't wait to hear your story. So if that applies to you, if you're watching this right now and you feel like, gosh, this is what I'm attracting, then keep listening. So Sandra, I already alluded a little bit to that juicy relationship that you now have. But before we do that, I just want to go in a little bit what was your dating, romantic life like before we started working together?
Well, I definitely fit the category of attracting those men who were emotionally just unavailable. They wanted casual relationships. They might have said they wanted a relationship, and then I think it was more for the sex. I found myself very anxious, understanding myself better of what the anxious attachment style was and how I would freak out if something wasn't going right. And I would lean in and just, I would freak them out. I really believed that I was too much for for men, and that I needed to change the things that just were so normal to me in order to not just attract somebody, but to keep them attracted to me. And it just felt very, just weird for me to be able to do that. And I tried, and it just wasn't authentic. I'm a very strong individual. And so I believed that scared men away, and I had to change who I was.
Yeah, totally.
Especially
right.
When friends would advise me to do so. And I'm like, well, I guess that's what I need to do because they had a successful relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And I also remember that you were attracting men who they were just also not capable to hold the feminine, right? To hold all the emotions, and who are kind of labeling you with words like that some men do with drama, they don't want any drama, which is often used by men who are sort of emotionally unavailable. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because a lot of women go through this, right? It's don't be drama, just I don't want a drama queen. And how did that make you feel when you were signaled by those men who, by the way, weren't even willing to commit to you,
right?
And making, all those requests of you?
Going through the motions, but then when it came down to having serious conversations, that was drama. That was drama. Besides having fun, because having fun was all that a relationship was supposed to be. So anything serious, don't bring it up, because now you're bringing drama. And it really just felt like I was, dismissed as an individual, and that it made me second guess myself that, what am I doing wrong? How do I do this the right way?
Right.
And I wasn't realizing that I was accepting these people into my life as that's as good as I'm going to get.
And how did that make you feel when you were at the end of the day, sitting at home, maybe journaling, reflecting on how the day went or how the conversation went, and you realized
it was very frustrating. I just felt very lonely and sad. It just wasn't good enough. And, I second guessed not just myself, but even God himself on, why are you putting me through this? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
It was very, very difficult. And,
yeah.
you try to watch videos to try to figure it out. You try to, it was just, there was something missing. And I just knew that I needed to look deeper and find another way.
Yeah, totally. And that's such a beautiful quality that you have, right? That you're like, you know what, I'm willing to be wrong and to find another way, do something different, even if there's maybe some silent payoffs to, you know, that level of certainty that I have with attracting the same kind of man. And I get to, you know, potentially complain to my girlfriends the same kind of way. And you get to be right. You get to say like, see, I told you he's not available. I told you that he's not going to show up. Right. And so we're going to talk in a moment how you broke through that. But before we do that, one of the most pressing questions, most popular questions I get from women all the time is, how did you meet your guy? Because you have like the funnest story. I love the stories talking about like God wings and synchronicities. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Sandra?
Yeah, right. God wings and serendipity even. Everything happens for a reason, right? I was actually on my way to a business conference, and since I was going out of town, it wasn't too far from where I live, I decided to look online to see if I had any potentials that I could meet while I was up there. And that you just never know where you might meet your partner. I was always open to that. And so I was talking to somebody, it checked all the boxes on paper, and communicating with him back and forth for a while. And wow, it seemed like the right person to meet. And up to the night before, we confirmed that we were going to meet. And I just had to, you know, nail down a time the next day based on my conference. And the next day he was tentative in the morning, and then he ghosted me. So I was like, dang. So I decided the place that I was going to meet him at, my girlfriend and I, that we were attending the conference together, decided to go there anyways, because it was close to where we were at. And I just happened to notice the waitress bringing, because we were trying to figure out what we wanted to eat. And I look around, I'm like, well, that looks good. She's bringing this huge salad to this guy and sitting at the bar, and we were sitting at the bar too. And it's a restaurant, and they were going to be playing karaoke. And I was like, ooh, that looks good. And he's kind of cute. And she's like, you should buy him a drink. And I'm like, buying him a drink? He should be buying me a drink. But I found him attractive. So I put myself in the line of sight by going over towards him and helping to plug in my girlfriend's phone that was dying at the bar. There was plugins there, and it only was right by him. He looked like somebody that I knew. So I asked him as I walked by if he happened to live in the area that I lived in, and he replied with a different city in an Irish accent, which I knew was not the same person. So that got us talking and moving over towards where the phone was, so that she could be closer to her phone. And the rest is history. We're still dating now, and it just was easy.
It's so amazing, right? It's like, you think, you know, I always say, like, the men that you're talking to in that moment, it could be just a bridge builder. It just could be someone who gets you to that place, right? Because we never know. It's always worth the conversation, right? And that's what I love about you. It's like you were consistently like, let's see what's there. No strings attached. Let's just see what's happening. I'm there anyways, right? So that's what I love too. Like, you are not going out of your way. But you're like, since I'm already there, may as well, right? And then I feel like you're actually talking also about like connected to your intuition and kind of like being present, because that led you to like, oh, I looked at that salad, and oh, where did the salad go, right? It's like kind of interesting. That's going to be like the insider joke now. Sandra, that salad, you know what I mean?
I actually posted an inside joke on I was in a pub, and they had a sign on the wall that a salad never brings two people together.
Oh,
I sent it to him like, this is what brought us together. I just found it really funny that I happened to see that on a wall, you know, later on.
I love it. So great, right? And I just like love that you just went anyways, right? Because like you could just say, oh, whatever, you know, my day is ruined or whatever, you know, I just stay at the conference. And but again, this positive outlook on life. So tell us a little bit more about like, what does your life look like now, your romantic life? with your Irish gentleman.
Really is a gentleman. And that is what I was looking for in a man. And he keeps surprising me with just who he is. And as I had worked with you and understood the different female and male archetypes that we have, and it takes a while to see those. And it's been fun knowing that and looking for that and going, oh, there it is. And my relationship ever from the very beginning was easy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have I used to think having butterflies was chemistry, and understanding that it was a form of anxiousness of who I really used to be fully. I'm not saying it's all gone. Every now and then a tinge can come up, but this was just easy and free flowing. I felt very good about just talking about anything without reservation, but I was grounded while I was doing it. When he had to leave, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, why is he leaving? I just was like, okay, it was nice, meeting you. And he's like, I would like to see you again. And it was like, okay, just, I could hear you in the background, in my mind. If there's one thing that kept standing out is your man knows.
Mm-hmm.
So when he would say, I'm not really good at texting, I'd be like, you're an engineer. I bet you're really good at, whatever you put your mind to. And we would banter. And by golly, if he hasn't been the best texter ever in the style that I like, in the amount of texting. And when he doesn't, I'm not like, oh, should I text? I don't even think about it. It's just natural. And I have not felt like that. I can't even remember if I ever felt like this at the beginning of a relationship, and just being comfortable. We communicate really well. And I just feel like we fit really well together. And the things that I did at the beginning of working with you and designing who I want in my life, how I want him to show up, what I want him to be, where I see us going and our goals and what we're doing, dreams. It's just coming to fruition verbally and just starting to show up.
That's so great. And how does that make you feel, Sandra, to actually now see it actually actualizing, right? Like the vision that we had and that we worked towards, and that we did, exercises and all the things. We're going to go into that in a moment. But how do you feel now, having just a guy where you don't have to think about what to text and how much and who texts who first and all these things, but everything is rather organic?
I don't feel like it's such a focus. I have to keep it focused. I can do my life and have a boyfriend, and not have my boyfriend be my life.
Yeah.
That's the way I always felt. What am I doing? When am I going to be there? How are we going to what are we doing next? And I felt like, okay, the biggest thing is I don't feel like I have to control everything. You had a quote one time that I found really just profound about giving up control, because let your man show who he is and what he can do in your relationship. And that's what's going on. He brings up things to do. And I still feel like he's chasing me, even though, and he's constantly, he just checks in with me.
Totally. Totally. As he should, right? As he should. Absolutely.
And he does that too. He goes, that's my job. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, wow. That's
you have somebody who has true values ingrained inside of himself, right? So as you be becoming more true to yourself, right, you actually attract the man into your life who's aligned, grounded, it's really has integrity, the king integrity we talked about. Yes. And speaking of that, what are some of the main lessons, things that helped you the most on your journey? Techniques, principles, beliefs that you learned in this whole process in working with me?
I can tell there's quite a few. I mean, number one, getting you as a coach was paramount, because it helped identify where my anxious tendencies all began and how to address them when they were showing up, and how to validate my little girl inside me, where they all came from. That was like the biggest aha moment, and the work that we did to identify that.
Mhm.
I finally felt validated as an adult that where it all began made sense to why all those issues I had all those years, just where they stem from, and why it was so difficult to just overcome them without actually doing some work,
Yeah.
identifying them and getting coached along the way, because they don't just go away. You're having things come up, and it's having you to be able to, all over those months, to be able to talk to, ask questions. I mean, that right there was paramount.
Mm.
I'd also say, just understanding the female archetypes and call them the different hats that I wore as a woman. And, we call them archetypes, but they made sense, but not just to know them, but how to balance them more, because I was high on some and low on others, and the things to do to get better at honing those.
Mm.
And also understanding the male archetypes and looking for them along the way when dating, and that it does take some time to identify them, and that, let them appear naturally in the dating process. There doesn't need to be a rush to lock anyone down. And that's what I was always trying to do, was lock someone down before I even knew who they really were. I could have saved myself so much time and heartache. And that's the very reason why I believe that, waiting to have sex until I saw those archetypes and agreed on exclusivity, and
Mhm.
actually agreeing on what exclusivity meant, so I could protect my heart and build the relationship first. Also understand that we attract what we resist most. That was another important, becoming the person I wanted to attract instead of resisting. The shadows, understanding shadows within myself and those things that really annoyed me the most, about myself or about others, and how they can actually be assets once I understood the emotions behind them and what could be so great about having them in myself. I mean, it took some work. And it's a constant. Those things come up, and it's so funny to go, okay, where's that shadow? It's a lifelong process, but to start that, and that was really profound. Being able to sit back and be okay with ambiguity, and, giving up control that I was so used to having to have, to be in a relationship, and just focusing on having fun dating instead of what the outcome had to be.
Yeah.
So
Right.
much,
Like committed to the process, detached from the outcome.
yeah, that
Brody
was,
calls it.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
think that's why it was so easy to keep dating. People were like shocked at how many dates I would go on, and where they would give up. They're like, it's so easy to label online dating is this, and men are like this, and you can't trust men. You can put labels on so many things based on your experiences, instead of what you can learn from them and take it to your next date or into your next dating.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
a big one was learning how to communicate my boundaries by being upfront with someone right away if they cross them, instead of having that fear of rejection.
Yeah.
That took some time, because that anxious girl was, always being rejected. And so I felt like I needed to just accept all of these things. And so learning some of those effective communication techniques was so helpful, and practicing them. And so I think dating is practice for the man you're meant to meet, the man that was meant to come into your life when you're ready
Yeah.
to know how to, communicate better, and being okay with being wrong.
Hmm.
My ego aside, to ask questions, and, be a better listener, and ask questions to understand
Mm.
better.
Yeah, totally.
I
And what did that allow you to actually how did that tremendously shifted your dating life when you like implemented those principles into your really like your everyday life, right?
It wasn't just dating. It was definitely in everyday life. All those things, almost all of those things apply to everyday life. But I was able to, I was able to then feel more confident about saying, no, thank you. I'm just not interested in pursuing this any further, because it wasn't what I was really looking for, where I was accepting. I was sometimes really looking for the wrong things, the superficial things. And I attracted those still. I was like, okay, this guy is damn good looking. Not where I need him to be here. And it took a little time to go, okay, I need to say goodbye to that. That's just not who I need in my life. I will meet the damn good looking and this and that effective communicator, the man who shows up, the man who makes the time, the man who wants to be in a relationship and not date casually to see where it would go.
Yeah. That's a big piece too, right? It's actually saying you can have it all. It's not like either I have someone who's safe or I have somebody who's exciting and have passion, right? And have attraction with. But to actually know you can have both. You can have a man who makes you feel secure and you're also passionately attracted to.
Yes. And it just takes, you have to be willing to say no to the ones that you know are probably not the right ones.
Yeah, because they maybe don't make you necessarily feeling safe and secure, and trust builds trust long term
later on. And you're gonna wish, why am I doing this? Next time I won't do this, but I'm so far into it because I have feelings. And that's what took a while to get over the ones in the past.
Yeah,
to make space for the one that was right for me.
Totally. Yeah. And I just really want to acknowledge you for that, because I know that takes something, right? And that's actually like a good transition too, to actually look at, what were some of your concerns before hiring me, before hiring an expert love coach. And then of course, how did you overcome those concerns or those fears or, the internal dialogues that's constantly talking?
I really just questioned myself that, am I ever going to meet a man that would love me the way I deserved and wanted to be loved? Was I really worthy of having that love, especially after a divorce? Would that man be somebody that I was attracted to? Did I have to just accept the nice guy? I read so many books, watched so many videos. But what was missing was having a real person to talk to that weren't my friends or family, who really were no different than myself, going through life trying to figure it out. And that's, if anything, I thought to myself, I was willing to pay to go to school to be taught in subjects that they were experts in, so that I could take away what I needed to in a business. I was willing to invest in myself to go to college or to take classes to become who I needed to be in business. Why am I not willing to do that in my personal life to get better at dating? So I realized that I needed to invest in myself and hire somebody.
And that's such a good point, right? Because one thing that we actually don't see is actually like the wealth is actually laying in the quality of your relationships, right? Because at the end of the day, when we're laying on our deathbed, we're definitely not saying, oh, I'm so glad I have like $1 million in my bank account, right? But like, how much have I loved? How deep were my relationships? What legacy am I leaving with that? And so, yeah, that's such a good point. Sandra, and was there like any point where, I always say you have to get to the point where you are right now is more painful, right? Like you can't stand like another second of where you are, being like kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, that has to be bigger than our fear of the unknown, right? And of the uncertainty and of the change and doing some things different and what we talked about before, right? And how did you deal with that kind of conversation inside of yourself?
You know, when you hit bottom, you know, when your heart has been broken to the point of it's just, you don't even know how to pick up the pieces anymore. And it, that's serendipitous to be put in front of somebody or see that video where, you know, you're talking to yourself saying, do I take the next step? Do I reach out? Do I, you know, submit? Like I saw, you know, so I saw videos with you.
Mm.
And, you know, I had been online, paid, you know, like $37 for something. And I, you know, then I was like, oh, this sounds really good. And then I saw some other videos, and then you had, you know, hey, try this out and, you know, buy this, you know, and I'm reading it. It sounds all good, but I'm still not getting what I really want. I'm still feeling worse and worse about where I'm at. And it just seems like there's nothing that I can do right. You just know. And then that's when that next video was that, you know, if this sounds like you know, take this quiz. And I did that. And I was like, before you know it, you and I are talking, and I'm like, I'm ready, because I was done trying to figure it out myself, because I didn't know what else to do. I knew it was that important to me.
Right.
I knew that was the one piece that I hadn't done well in my life, that I needed the most help with, that I couldn't do by myself anymore.
Yeah. So you get this, like, really this resolve that you have inside of yourself in a good way, right? Because it just really says, you know, it can only go up from here, right? It's like when you hit that rock bottom,
I
and
had nothing to lose. I had nothing else to lose.
absolutely
And everything to gain. And I had never hired someone before for this.
Yeah, so good. Well, see, you know what, like sometimes taking a calculated risk, you know, it just really pays off, right? Like, look, but you've also never had a relationship the way you have. So I always say, you know, you got to do something you've never done to get what you never had. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just going to be the same thing, right? And I guess, you know, there's like this saying, of course, the most dangerous place you can be in is in the middle of the road. So for the women who are on the fence, right, you're sitting on the fence, like, should I hire Antia? Like, should I hire an expert love coach? Right? Like, what's what would you tell them? What would any final advice you would recommend to a woman who's kind of weighing up, you know, like, but she's also not moving forward, to get her off that out of the middle of the road?
Well, it's just so right, you know, taking a little bit from what I had just mentioned. If you've had similar experiences, you've tried over and over, you're reading, you're watching videos, you're not getting the results, you know, do what anyone who wants to get better at what they do, and hire a coach who's trained and skilled specifically in this area, which you are fully trained, and help so many women find love. And, you know, stop looking for advice from people who are not skilled in this area, and just believe that you truly are worth investing in. You know, look what you have to gain, not only working on yourself, but learning about yourself in ways you might never have thought to imagine. You know, because there's a big difference of listening and reading, but truly doing the work and applying techniques over and over again. It takes practice with someone like you, Antia, you know, with somebody like that to hold your hand and explain to you what is actually going on in the moment, and why you're going through the situation that you're going through. That right there is gold, to have that. You are to have that simply just, you know, a text away, or an audio away, or that one-on-one away, or that group meeting away. You know, if you truly want change, you have to be willing to listen, as well as being open to change in your life, no matter how difficult it can be, because the rewards can truly be life-changing. And exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, so true. You know, I just really love that you reflect that so beautifully, Sandra, because of course the women, they haven't seen you in the very beginning. They haven't seen you, how anxious you were and how attached you were to the wrong type of man. So I just really want to acknowledge you, like, for how far you've come in a very short period of time, where women struggle for like decades. You know, I mean, I still have people that I went, you know, when I lived in LA, and I still see them on Facebook from like over 10 years ago before I met my husband, and they're still not any further than they were 10 years ago, right? So I just really want to acknowledge you for taking that step and saying, I'm going to draw a line in the sand. And you know, we always say, if you cut one leg off, you either cut off the past or the future, right? And you're like, you know, I'm cutting off the past, like, even if there were payoffs and certainty, right? But I'm like, I'm looking into the future. Like, I'm like, this is what I want, right? Like, I'm willing to be wrong if I'm going to get a new outcome. And for the women who are watching this and are feeling like, gosh, I just really resonate with that. Like, when Sandra was sharing, it was really like God talking to me, something got activated. Then I invite you to take my free love pattern quiz at getlovequiz.com. And then let's hop on the phone afterwards and see, like, if this makes sense for you, if this process could potentially work for you. And Sandra, I always love to say at the very end, you know, because you've been on your own journey, you've gone through this process. What's something that you would leave the women with, like a golden nugget, you know what I mean? Maybe a joke, an anecdote, it's all up to you, you know what I mean? Because, hey, ladies, like, Sandra's really funny, you know, so you never know.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you don't succeed first, try again. You know? It really is. You know, get back on the horse each and every time.
Yeah.
You know, it's there. And your man really does know. Man does know exactly what you want. And
yes,
it's like, I get where you have to see it to believe it. Well, I was very skeptical that I would see it, but I knew that the process would work with enough time. And I like to say, you throw enough spaghetti against the wall and something has to stick. So you got to go out on a lot of dates to practice, and something's going to stick, and you're going to you're going to know. I really believe now what you meant. You are going to know when it's happening, and you don't have to accept the bottom of the barrel any longer. Once you really do the work, it's there.
So true, Sandra. And I'm just like so excited that you're really one of those like shining beacons of light and inspiration, right? For a woman who's like in that same boat, who can't even imagine like next year being in a totally different place and being totally self-honoring, having maybe even already Christmas, you know, all the things. This year, having already the man by your side, because we've seen this going really fast when you implement. So again, take my free love pattern quiz at getlovequiz.com and let's have a conversation about it. Well, Sandra, I always love chatting with you. Thank you so much for being here, taking all time out of your valuable day and schedule, because I know you're a busy bee. And for the ladies, I'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.